The topic which I would like to present is sustainable intensification of aquaculture for nutrition security. If you look into the dictionary meaning of sustainability, we will see different versions. One version says that it is able to be maintained at a certain rate or level. That is sustainable economic growth, causing little or no damage to the environment and therefore able to continue for a long time. That is sustainable development. Another version says using methods that do not harm the environment so that natural resources are still available in the future. Yet another version says a sustainable plan, method, or system is designed to continue at the same rate or level of activity without any problem. The term intensification. It is the increase in the number of fishes stocked per unit area or unit volume. When we think about culture, for example, if 2 fishes are stocked per unit area in extensive system, in intensive system it becomes about 20. In such a situation, natural food becomes insufficient. Naturally available oxygen becomes insufficient. The biogeochemical cycles becomes inadequate. That warrant human intervention to prevent the system from collapse. Then comes another word known as carrying capacity. Carrying capacity of a culture system plays the key role in the extent of intensification. Carrying capacity refers to the biomass of cultured organisms that can be supported without altering system state or system function measured by water sediment characteristics. That means it must be supported without altering system state or system function. It implies that if the carrying capacity has to be increased, the system state and system function have to be altered, which adds to the cost of production. That is a key factor to be considered. When we go for intensification, human intervention comes into the system for altering the system state and system function, which adds to the cost of production. A natural culture system, for example, a culture pond, can be categorized in 2 different forms. One is earthen pond culture system having sediment beneath water with powerful hypolimnion. That is a sediment water interface, the normal culture pond what we see around. Then comes earthen pond culture system having polythene lining between sediment and overlying water, having no hypolimnion. These 2 systems makes a lot of difference in between, because sediment along with the hypolimnion function as bioreactor regulating the biogeochemical cycles. So by putting a lining in between water and sediment, we are preventing the function or the contribution of that bioreactor. So we do this to make the system intensive. So when we look into the carrying capacity of the system 1, where there is sediment beneath, the system 1 can be enhanced through bioremediation with a little expense, taking into consideration the contribution of the sediment beneath. However, in the system 2, where there is a polythene lining between water and sediment, high order of investment has to be made to enhance the carrying capacity because it behaves as an artificial system. This particular basic concept, principle, is not being understood by several aquaculturists. What I spoke now are the two natural systems. One natural system has been modified. Now what I want to present or speak about is three artificial high-density fish culture systems. One is the recirculating aquaculture system, RAS. Second one is aquaponics technology. Third one is the biofloc technology. So all these terms are very much familiar to everybody. Now we're looking into RAS. There must be provision to supply continuously oxygen. There must be provision to remove ammonia and dissolved organic matter continuously from water. There must be provision to remove suspended particulate organic matter. In a natural system, all these three processes are being carried out by nature, by itself, through biogeochemical cycles, which are part of the system. When we come to an artificial system like RAS, all these have to be built in the system artificially and see that the production is going on in an intensive form. Altogether, the whole process makes it an energy-intensive process based on the gadgets one uses. To attain all the three components which I mentioned here, various different category of machineries can be implemented. We can have a pure oxygen for continuous supply of oxygen. We can put a drum filter to remove suspended matter. We can put a protein skimmer to remove dissolved organic matter if needed. Like that, so many things we can add. All these add to the cost of production, not only the capital investment, but the recurring cost. Level of intensity, cost of production, and sustainability depends on the methodology one adopts to attain the above three targets. So three targets are oxygen, removal of ammonia, removal of particulate organic matter. So how do we achieve these three objectives in an RAS is a very important, pertinent question to be asked to make it a sustainable venture. Now we coming to the aquaponics technology. Here, the biological bed attached to the culture tank serves the purpose of removal of dissolved and suspended organic matter and the ammonia. That's a very important component which is added to the culture or production facility. The decisive factor is the plants grown over the bed and how properly the bed is maintained, because rain and sunlight may kill it. Now coming to biofloc technology. The bioflocs formed serve the purpose of ammonia removal, dissolved and particulate organic matter removal, and to make water congenial for the reared animals. The entire processes what we have seen above, carried out by different components of RAS, and the bed in an aquaponics is being carried out by tiny flocks which are biologically formed and suspended in water. Instead of chemolithotrophic ammonia removal, heterotrophic removal of ammonia nitrogen is perpetuated by maintaining carbon-nitrogen ratio 15. A very sensitive microbial process requiring deep knowledge on the system and skill. So these are the three important artificial systems which we can offer for intensification. Now coming to nutrition security. In 1996, World Food Summit defined food security as a state or condition when all people at all times have physical, economic, and social access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary requirements. In their 2012 report, the Committee for World Food Security set the benchmark of nutrition security as when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to food which is safe and consumed in sufficient quantity and quality to meet their dietary needs and food preferences, and is supported by an environment of adequate sanitation, health services, and care, and allowing for a healthy and active life. One important point to be noted is the economic access to food. That means the people around must be able to buy this food and consume. The purchasing capacity is the most important component in food and nutrition security. Food per se is thus only one factor contributing to nutritional security. Thus, although the phrase food and nutrition security is now often used, a better phrase would be simply nutrition security. Nutrition security encompasses food security, which encompasses nutrient content. Finally, while noting that nutrition security pertains to the individual, we must recognize that there are multiple factors that influence how we achieve it. And the responsibility for taking action spans jurisdictional levels from the community to the nation and the world. Purchasing capacity versus nutrient security. When fish production is in intensive mode, naturally the cost of production would go up, resulting in comparatively costly fish and fish products. The pertinent question is, who would buy such a food item or such food items? Naturally, such products slips to those who can afford to expensive fish. Would it then serve the purpose of food and nutrient security for the masses, irrespective of the financial capability? I would like to reiterate, would it then serve the purpose of food and nutrition security for masses? Our objective is masses, all people around, all category of people who have got job, who are jobless, irrespective of the financial capability. So we will put all the three words together: intensification, sustainability, nutrition security. It evolves that apart from environmental health considerations for sustainability, intensification becomes sustainable only if there is flow of the fish produced to the masses. Only if there is flow of fish produced to the masses, because masses must be able to buy it. Otherwise, there will be a big roadblock in the movement of fish, resulting in breakdown at the production side. In other words, we must be able to produce best quality fish at affordable price. The question, can we do that by intensification? I'm not talking about shrimp here because shrimp is a cash crop. Shrimp is cultivated not for Indians, it's to feed the West. I'm talking about fin fishes. Nevertheless, can we answer to the question, can we able to produce best quality fish at affordable price by intensification? Every farmer who enters into the intensification through high density fish culture asks the question, where do I sell my fish? This question I have been listening for years. This must be the first question to be answered before we set out for intensification. So when we plan for intensification, the technology what we adopt must produce the best quality fish at affordable price. The question, can we do that? Our target is the masses around, everybody around. Thank you.